Our next keynote speaker is Edward Blackman. Edward is the Global Senior Leader of Continuous Improvement at Whirlpool. He's a conference keynote speaker and global business improvement leader with executive experience focused on behavioral systems, lean leadership, systemic employee skill development, strategy, and operational excellence. His transformation experiences includes IT, operations, HR, finance, manufacturing, healthcare, and retail. Edward is certified in Agile as a Scrum Master and Agile Coach, Six Sigma Black Belt, and Lean Instructor and Coach. He has undergraduate degrees in Mathematics and Psychology and a Master's degree in Behavioral Science. He greatly values innovation and is an inventor himself. He has obtained backing for 2 different products he invented through ideation programs. So it's with great pleasure that I would like to welcome Edward Blackman to the stage. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. I know I'm the last thing between you and some good food, and based on lunch, which was fabulous, I know dinner will be excellent as well. So you already got the introduction. You've seen probably the abstract a little bit. What might make this a little bit unique is this is a behavioral science and, if you will, lean combination. We found that putting the 2 together ends up creating something rather powerful. Background, you already heard this. I'm not going to go through that again. About Whirlpool. Whirlpool is the largest appliance manufacturer on planet Earth. We had $21 billion in sales last year, about 92,000 employees, locations all over the world. Here's my only plug. Please buy our stuff. To scope this in a bit, there are different areas or sides of organizations. The focus for this talk today is on the, if you will, the administrative side, so HR, legal, finance, things like that, not the manufacturing side, okay? I started with the organization a few years ago to help out with a few things, refresh the CI approach and things like that. At the time, there was mostly event and project-based CI that was occurring, very little, if you will, daily-based behaviors that were occurring. Leaders were very supportive of the approach, but they were more at a distance, not necessarily practitioners themselves. Okay, and while I talk today, I'm going to use the umbrella term CI, continuous improvement, to describe most of what we talk about. Depending on an individual's approach and how they learned improvement techniques over time, you might say Agile is the approach, or Lean is the approach, or Six Sigma is the approach. For a Venn diagram, I'm just going to put all of that into the umbrella of CI, okay, just for simplicity. So when I started, one of the approaches that I was taught by a mentor was, if you're going to do a transformation, take people to what better can look like and see if they actually like it. Show them their future and see if it's something they actually desire. So this is basically the model line approach that we've learned from Toyota. It's an internal proof of concept approach. I've been partnering with Nationwide Insurance for quite a few years, done this quite a few times, and toured their Gemba, their actual shop floor, a number of times, as well as Target. So I ended up taking the leaders to Nationwide. By the way, I saw some of the leadership from Nationwide here as well today. They're excellent. A lot of their materials are online. They present at conferences quite a bit. They have a book that's out there on their approach. So if you want to learn more, there's a lot of opportunities for that. This is a Gemba walk. So what you'll see up here in the upper left-hand corner is what we call nemawashi. There's actually 2 definitions for nemawashi. The version that we're talking about here is business-sponsored socializing. A lot of what we do involves change management, asking hard questions, asking people to change their behaviors, how they do their work. If you build a rapport with them before you make the ask, you're much more likely to be successful. So we actually sat down with Tom Pater, Kevin as well. Oh, Kevin is here from Nationwide, and a few other folks, and we had drinks with them first. We learned who they were as human beings, why they're doing this type of stuff, right? And this was a peer-to-peer interaction, right? So I helped set it up, and then I get out of the way, and then I have a VP talk to another VP who's in the same shoes, and they have a powerful conversation that I don't disrupt. Right? Same thing, director, things like that. That is much more powerful than me preaching about how good Nationwide is. They just get to hear from their peers, right? So we had dinner, nemawashi. The top middle picture is actually the ground floor their, if you will, Scrum teams that they use. If you're not familiar, how many people in here are familiar with Agile Scrum? About half of you? Okay. There's a lot of versions of it, but the version that they use there is very effective. Part of why I like them so much as a model line is they've scaled this over a long period of time. They've been at it over a decade, and what I've seen in my career is often people will be sent to help fix frontline, right? Improve the frontline area, but then you have supervisor, manager, director, vice president, C-suite, right? And the conversations end up being, well, fix down here. All the rest of this is good, right? Let us know how it turns out. We'll attend the report outs, right? But fix here. No. Nationwide does this at scale, all the way up to the executive level. So what you see in the bottom picture there is, and the guy has an awesome name, Guru. Guru is one of the CIOs there. That's his visual management system. That's where a CIO, an executive, practices what he preaches. That's where he huddles twice a week, right, with his team, his direct reports. That's the hard part. Getting all the levels of leadership to practice this. Daily behaviors, that's where this beauty comes in. So these guys are fabulous. It just so happened that I was embedded with information services at Whirlpool. So for new learners, you don't take new learners to an environment where they have to do a translation. So I wouldn't take information service people, IT people, to a manufacturing floor because they have to do some type of translation in their head to, okay, how does this relate to code? Right? No, you take new learners to something that's very similar to their reality so they don't have to do that translation. In this case, Nationwide Insurance, if you don't mind me saying, is basically a giant IT shop. 8,000 people in IT, I think, and this is public information, like $1.4 billion spend annually on IT, right? So there was a very nice comparison point to what we were trying to do within the information services department. Another example, Target. Target has had some bad press in the past. They had some data breaches, some stuff happened. They had a new CIO come on board, and it was beautiful. New CIO comes on board, walks the Gemba, sees all the IS areas that he's going to lead, and he sees this one team. And this one team is delivering better code, better quality, faster, with happier staff, and happier customers than all the other teams in IT. Who doesn't want attributes like that? And he said, why aren't we doing this everywhere? So they took that team as a model line and scaled it and expanded it. And they also set up what's called a dojo. It's a learning facility. There's a lot of ways to do training, right? A highly efficient training method is to take 1,000 people and put them through a 1-hour course, but it's highly ineffective. Efficiency and effectiveness, not the same thing. They took an effective approach. Teams that want to turn agile go in here for a 3-month tour duty, and they come out high-speed boogie-in with agile. They can hit the ground running with this. It's extremely effective approach. So if this is one way to develop behaviors, should we try it? So afterwards, another mentor taught me that you'll often face these questions. Go where you're needed or go where you're invited. It's beautiful if it's the same place. Doesn't happen very much, right? And if you're facing this question, always, always, always go where you're invited. The other approach is Sisyphean, right? So the myth about Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill for eternity, never making much progress. See a lot of heads nodding. Unfortunately, you can relate. Okay. If you go where you're invited, and it's the minority, right? It doesn't matter. If you're successful at transforming the people that are inviting you into their house, that starts to create a tipping point, and it becomes the majority, and it starts to influence the others in the organization, right? So you will eventually get to those who aren't inviting you in, and at that point, they'll have this beautiful and scary thing called peer pressure. And at that point, they'll be the minority. So after the model line visits, I come back with the executives, and I've done this a few times in different organizations, and it's a genuine question. What did you see? What did you learn? Did you like any of it? Some leaders, executives, say no. I didn't see anything of value there. In fact, it looks like a step backwards. Okay, no judgment. I won't work on producing or transforming your teams in that direction. That is not what better looks like to you. I'm not going after that goal, right? Other leaders are, wait and see, right? The whole adoption curve. Some leaders are like, why aren't we doing this right now? Okay, let's get started tomorrow, right? So I start working with those folks, the folks that invite me in to work, right? Those leaders, because I have, at that point, a vice president, in some cases, global vice presidents, right? Huge span of control, who are saying, yes, I've just seen 10 years into my future. I want that. Beautiful. There's a couple things that can turn you into quick behavioral scientists. There are 3 phrases that behavioral scientists, real ones, say a lot. It's on a continuum. The conditions under which, and the third one you already know, we'll talk about that later. But the first one is the most relevant to this. It's on a continuum, right? So if that's what 10 years down the road looks like, don't jump to that ideal state. Iterate towards it. Future state 1, future state 2, things like that. So let's start that journey. To demystify behavioral science a little bit, there's a lot to it, a lot of fun stuff. There are journals that you probably never have heard of that have figured out a lot of these leadership behavior change things that we ask and talk about all the time. They published this stuff back in the 50s, right? 60s. They have a lot of this figured out. Unfortunately, they're niche journals, right? So people that are in economics don't necessarily read behavioral science journals, right? Manufacturing environments read manufacturing journals, not behavioral science journals, right? So it's understandable that a lot of this stuff hasn't made it out there to popular society yet, other than, you know, a few cool TV shows that you might have seen out there. Behavioral science unit, nothing like that. So behavioral pinpointing, what is behavior? This honestly is a sticking point for a lot of folks. Behavior is something I can observe with a camera, right? If I ask you to think about a red car, I have no idea if he thought about a red car or a blue car, or is thinking about dinner, right? He can self-report it, he can tell me what he's thinking, right? But that's it. So behavior is something that you can actually observe. The more you pinpoint that behavior, the more accurate you are at developing that behavior and transforming it. Another one is response effort analysis. This is commonly in business environments equated to an ROI, right? How much work is it to get the response that I want, right? That is really going to be key here in a couple slides. Feedback systems, I'll just tell you flat out from a behavioral perspective, most of the time these are non-existent. We are very familiar with feedback systems in our car every single day. We know how fast we're driving, right? We know when we need to get more gas, things like that. And yet a lot of what we use to transform behavior, transform processes and systems, right, is like driving, looking out the rear view mirror. That doesn't work so well. Lagging indicators that are weeks behind, dude, you're gonna hit a tree. Not a good idea, right? Matching law, I'll put this one up here just to kind of show off. Matching law is how you would mathematically predict behavior. There are ways to do this. I'm really geeked out about some of the presentations that happened earlier today and the applications of this to things like Amazon and Facebook and things like that. There are laws, flat out laws for predicting behavior that work really well for conditions under which, right? Given specific conditions. Picnic analysis, I'll leave that one for your Google search. It's really cool. Performance management, this is a lot like hammers. Hammers can produce works of art, right? Or they can destroy. And some of you might be able to relate, a lot of times performance management is used to destroy instead of set up people for success. Performance management is a beautiful thing when aligned with strategy. We talk a long time about that one. Gilbert, so I have a lot of, my contact information's on the last slide. Second to last slide, I have a bunch of books and recommendations. Gilbert, he has a book out there that's published, it's listed in the back. Guy's a genius. He really knows his stuff. There's a thing called a behavioral engineering model. And if I can entice you in any way to read his book, I'll talk about a couple quotes out of there. He treats human error as a myth. Often when we talk about human error, we try to say that it's a cause of something going wrong. He treats it as a symptom. There's a whole nother level of analysis to go into. There's a 6-box analysis that he likes quite a bit to see whether or not human error is really what's going on, or was the individual actually set up for failure? And most of the time, I'm gonna go with that latter one. Okay, so rubification, patent pending. So why do we struggle with the CI stuff? Why do we constantly talk about why transformations fail? why is this such a prevalent issue for us? It seems systemic in it. I'm going to say part of the reason is because we over-engineer our approaches. We make them too complicated getting out of the gate. Right? It's crawl, walk, run, not Usain Bolt right out of the gate, right? It's too much of an ask. There's a lot of work in maintaining these CI systems. Let's see if we can develop a little bit of behavior first and then build on that incrementally, right? Just like the Agile approach, okay? So, if you're gonna, hopefully nobody brought anything really heavy to throw at me. I'm gonna talk about a couple taboo things. I love Kata. I absolutely love it out of the box, straight out of the book. It's wonderful. Mike Rother, Professor Rother over at the University of Michigan did a great job describing the behaviors that he saw in Toyota. Trying to implement Kata, textbook fashion, from no Kata to all of the dynamics, the systems, the learner storyboards, all of that, that's a huge administrative burden, right? We have a frame of reference for this stuff, right? Let's apply it to ourselves. Ideal state, what does perfection look like? Current state, future state 1, future state 2, future state 3. I'll say out of the box, Kata is ideal state. Folks, we gotta iterate towards that. Work towards it incrementally. Right? Build on our successes, not just jump to the whole thing. Nobody threw anything. Okay, cool. So how can we simplify this? This was actually taught to me before the Kata book came out, and it's right in line with one of the questions that's in there. I'm actually going to spend more time on this than I usually do because I think this can scale and help folks right when you leave here. It's such a simple framework. Right in line with Kata, and if you can get people to do this, it's powerful. So what is your goal? Questions 1 and 2 should have numbers in them. What's your goal? What's your actual? Here's the tricky part. The difference between 1 and 2 is a gap. The question we love to ask is, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? That's your answer. The problem that we're trying to solve is the gap between 1 and 2, okay? The closer you are to having actual numbers in there, the quicker you can get to alignment on something or misalignment and be able to see it quickly. 3 is what is the cause of that gap. 4 is what is your plan to address it. And then 5, I love question 5. Please, please, please don't remove question 5 if you adopt this. As a leader, how may I help you? If the team's stuck, we don't have an actual goal. You asked us to fix something, we don't even know what direction to go in. Oh, I'll help you with that as a leader. They can get stuck in any of these. We have our goal, we know our current state, our actual, where we're at today. We don't know the cause. Oh, let me help you with that. We got the first 3 down. We're stuck on plan. We're stuck on solution. What to do about, let me help you with that, okay? It's such a beautiful conversation. Often this is referred to as a conversational A3. If you recognize this at all, if you're familiar with A3 thinking, Managing to Learn, awesome book, right? The first 3 questions are the left-hand side of the A3. Question 4 is the right, solution side. The mantra for us in a simplified fashion is stay to the left, stay to the left, stay to the left. Talk about the problem side before you ever talk about the solution side, right? That's such a struggle. And when I say that, I'm saying all the way up and down the leadership org chart, okay? We violate it all the time. I've been mentored by a lot of folks, a lot of organizations over the years. Herman Miller is one of the ones that I'm just in awe of. They are a small office furniture manufacturer. I shouldn't say small. Global office furniture manufacturer headquartered in Michigan. They partnered with us when I worked for a healthcare system, and they taught us their version of CI. So I started out, I learned project-based CI, and then another mentor taught me event-based CI, and then another mentor, Herman Miller, taught me daily. And they all 3 didn't look anything like one another. And when I got to daily, I'm like, why didn't anybody else teach me this approach, right? That's another conversation. So daily problem solving, what does that look like? If you've ever done A3s, one of the questions I love to throw out there is, have you ever done an A3 in a day? Why not? What's getting in the way of that? What are the struggles that prevent that from happening? Right? One of the things that Herman Miller, and I'll attribute this more accurately to Mr. Oba. Oba-san was their sensei from Toyota. They partnered with TMMC to learn this approach. Obasan would say, no, no, or not on left side. So this is tricky. If we talk about problem statements, and really good problem statements are like one sentence, avoiding the words no or not in your problem statement. If you've not struggled with this, I've struggled with this for 19 years, and it's still hard for me. For example, let's apply it up here. When conversations start, when you go into a project meeting, into a meeting with your leader, your team, peers, use this framework and figure out where they're starting the conversation. And I'll put good money down. I got $1 billion this morning from an earlier presenter. I'll put good money down that they're starting with number 4. They're telling you the solution or the plan that they want to implement. Here's the software we want to buy. Here's the consultants that we want to hire. Here's the training we want to give, right? Here's the vendor we want to work with. Solution, solution, solution. Great, to solve what problem? Oh, well, we don't have that software. Okay, so no, we're just reverse engineering our solution, right? That's lazy problem solving, right? We're just saying no software is the problem that we're trying to solve. No. We think the software is actually going to automate some function, reduce our lead time. Or we think it's going to improve our accuracy because we're transposing information from one system into another, right? So we think we're going to do a quality improvement, things like that, right? That's what we're actually trying to go for. The example that we use to try to get people to internalize this is a non-relevant example. So from a behavioral science perspective, use non-relevant examples when you're trying to teach a model. That way people don't get stuck in the example, they learn the model instead. So if they're trying to learn this model and you're teaching it to IT people, don't use IT examples. We use sprinklers. So the example that we use, the non-example that we use is number 4, I want to implement underground sprinklers. Okay, to solve what problem? Anybody? No underground sprinklers. That's where they come, first time, right? They're learning this approach, and that's what they put up in 1 and 2. No underground sprinklers. But here's the thing that we learned from Oba-san is that limits your thinking, that limits your problem solving. And you know it does, and you know it's a bad approach, and you know you're not at current state, right? If you can only take one path. If my problem statement is no underground sprinklers, there's only one path I can take to question number 4, to my solution. Underground sprinklers, right? No, that's not the problem I'm trying to solve. The problem I'm trying to solve is dead lawn. It looks bad. Neighbors are complaining. I'm about to get fined, things like that, right? So if dead lawn is the problem that you're trying to solve, where can you go with that? Anyone? What's that? Artificial lawn, yes. Paint the lawn. Rip up the lawn and install rocks, right? There's so many options that you have if you're at true current state, right? But if you only have one path, you're not at true current state, okay? A little bit of preaching, sorry, you put me on stage. I also want to use this, so Shingo was mentioned earlier, it was an excellent presentation that happened. I want to say you can also use this in the same mentality as a Shingo assessment. So if you've looked at lean maturity assessments and things like that, you can use this framework to assess current state problem solving thinking behaviors in your organization. When you walk into meetings, again, having discussions, what's happening? Are people talking about number 4? As they evolve, as they mature with their problem solving ability, they start to switch the order around. And eventually they start with number 2. Oh, sorry, this happened again. We're a Google Suite company, not a Microsoft Office. So when it gets, what is it called? Converted into Microsoft Office, this happens. So indexing with 11111 is absolutely of no value at all. So this should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perhaps everything I just said makes a little more sense now. So the fourth one, plan, is where a lot of conversations will start when problem-solving behavior is beginning. As people evolve, they start to use actual. Oh, this is where we're at today. Then they start using, and this is our goal, and then they start getting into cause and things like that. Thank you. Ideal state is they start with the goal first before they get to the actual, right? So think about it this way. Our house is on fire this many times right now. Okay, how often do you want it on fire? That's a silly question. Is it? 0. Oh, okay, thank you. Now I understand. Great. If we start with the goal first, we can actually start being strategic enterprise-wide with this work. I can talk for a long time on this one. I just got the 5-minute mark. So I'm gonna move along to, what was it called, dog food eating, one of the earlier presenters. To eat our own dog food, yeah, you can apply this to CI, just like anything else. Number of problem solvers that we want based on scientific approach, right? I'll say connecting this to strategy is really powerful. We do a thing called a perfect day exercise. This is what it looks like. So there's a journey up the mountain, right, that you're trying to take: ideal state, current state, future state 1, 2, 3, and 4. We use the 5 KPI categories of safety, quality, delivery, cost, morale. And then we try to get people to line up on those, on what is ideal state for safety, what is ideal state for quality, things like that. You do it at a team level, department level, organization-wide level. When you have HR compare their journey map to legal, to finance, to IS, wow, it's amazing to start to see how they don't line up and how you can work together on that. I think it was like my second month at Whirlpool. I was asked to fly down to Mexico and work with the executive team down there. And here's a journey mountain session, right? Mapping, trying to develop their strategy. Here's the part I want to emphasize a little bit. The picture on the right is the president of our Mexico region scribing. This is a highly participatory event. You can do this from 1 hour up to 8-hour sessions I've done before. It works really well. But the beautiful part is you see where you're not aligned on your behaviors. So Toyota's priority order of the 5 KPI categories is safety, quality, delivery, cost, people/morale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? The question becomes, what is ours? And so we asked that question of this team, and they said, oh yeah, that sounds good, let's do that one. I've never had a team of executives line up in under 5 minutes. No. And and they were conflict adverse. Like, all right, so I'm gonna tell you what I think you're thinking, you tell me if I'm wrong. Head of HR, you're gonna put people/morale first. Head of manufacturing, you're gonna put delivery first. Where's the head of finance? Cost is first. And the finance person, something, right, finance is first. And it was fascinating, all of them stood up. Your right people is first. Your right quality is first. Your right delivery is first, right? And then they went at it, one another. And they started to storm. Storming, norming, performing, right? They started working through those stages. They had a visual mechanism to be able to see where they did not align. That's where some of the beauty came in. And they started attacking the journey map instead of one another. It worked really well. So I'm about out of time. We started to eat our own dog food, so I started to teach the other CI leaders that are embedded through the organization to be able to do this with their orgs as well. Visual management systems. This is a global vice president's visual management system. Started as a blank wall. We got the Kanban set up, thank you, and the health metrics set up. So there's a lot of beautiful videos out there. Nike IT Obaya video is excellent on how to do Obayas. They had a very nice marketing budget for their video. Don't jump to their ideal state, right? See if you can put a Kanban up. Just what is your project portfolio, right? Put your portfolio on the wall. Figure out what stages it's in, not started, work in progress, done. Use the agile stages, to do, doing, done, whatever you want, and start to get alignment and huddle around that on a regular basis, and then build. Right? You start to change the behaviors, then you start to increase the complexity as people actually get value out of it. These have fallen flat. As people don't get value out of this, they're not ready yet. That's fine. We'll work with other areas. This has evolved. These are actually some old pictures. We have a whole room set up now. We actually spent a little bit of money and transformed a maintenance room to turn into an Obaya because we wanted to start to line up all the divisions across the entire globe on this. Worked out really well. Did this for IoT as well, Internet of Things, because of the backlog associated with it. I want to give this a little bit of press real quick. Skills Matrix is a beautiful way to show respect to your employees. What are the skills that we need in our organization? Right. Nationwide, I have actually collaborated on this a few times now. They do some great work around this too. There's 4 levels, fluency levels, there's Dreyfus levels, there's all these types of things. I like this because the highest level attainable here is not extremely proficient, it's coach. I've successfully coached others on this skill. What is the type of culture that creates? when your whole skill development program is based on coaching. That's sustainable and generalizable. So I'm out of time. I'm over on time. There's a break after this. I'll do the same thing as a previous presenter. If you want to do Q&A, things like that, it's totally up to you. If you want to stay, I'm very happy to answer questions.
Yeah, because we have a break now, we have a little bit more flexibility. So this is great, Edward, because this is real practice, right? It's a leader here who is implementing and showing the reality of implementation. Because so many times we get presentations that look so nice, and it's so far from reality that we live in, right? So this is real on the ground, and I love that. So just want to make sure that in the audience here, if there are any questions, practical questions about the journey that they have gone through, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what questions do you have? If you have questions to Edward, there's one here, if you could.
Yes, sir.
Let's wait until the microphone gets there. So just let me know your name, title, company, just so we have context.
My name is Pranav. So outside of peer pressure that you mentioned that is usually very easy to use for leadership sort of engagement, what other tactics have you used to accelerate or reinforce lean behaviors in leadership?
Many. So peer pressure is a beautiful or an evil thing, right? It can be used in either direction, right? Model line approach is excellent, right? Target had only one team in their entire organization that was doing Agile. And then there was a leadership change, and they had their KPIs ready to be able to share that, and that helped reinforce the message. Recruiting. I remember when I was interviewed for Whirlpool, I've been doing this for 19 years now, right? So I'm a little bit better at starting to see the types of folks that I want to work with and things like that. And they were very tolerant of my questions, but one of them was, this is a behavior change, right? Tell me at what level you think behavior change should stop. Loaded question. Well, it probably shouldn't. Oh, okay. So what that means for us is if I'm working for you and you're a global executive, you're going to give me time every single week on your calendar, and I'm going to coach you one-on-one, right? TMMC, the organization that helped coach Herman Miller, they have 3 prereqs to coach any organization. 1, no one will ever lose their job as a result of improvement. Otherwise, it just kills it, right? 2, you never make money on anything that we teach you. We only ask that you teach others, and they taught us in healthcare, which is beautiful. 3 is hard. 3 filters out a lot of people. Your CEO, your highest person in your organization, she gets coaching too. So if the leader of the organization isn't willing to allocate their time to it, how far are you going to get? You can make a little progress. So that's Toyota. They're able to make demands like that. What I tell people is the same thing as everyone else. It's on a continuum. Coach at the highest level, you're given permission, right? And what people will start to see is that person is getting better KPIs. And they start to go home on time at night instead of 7 o'clock every night and working weekends, right? So they get better results in less time, and their staff start getting happier, and they're happier. I don't know how that happened, but I want that too.
We have time for one more question if there's any other questions in the audience. Yes, right there. Could you state your name and who you work with?
Hi everybody, Fabrizio Falcone, Johnson & Johnson. Hi. I have a question about the huddle. We have seen a global executive doing the huddles like performance management meeting twice a week. These are being cascaded to also down, or is only on the leadership level?
Yeah, they're all over. And this is just like the last question, do them where you're given permission, right? So I was given permission to do it at the executive level, so I know that if an executive's doing it, the word of mouth on that story gives me a lot of leeway when I work at any other level, right? So if I would start working with directors, managers, supervisors, frontline staff, and there's a little pushback, and no, I don't have time for this, or no, I don't really think this is applicable, that's Toyota, things like that. Oh, okay, well, your global executive is doing this twice a week. So I don't know if she's gonna buy your reason here, right? If they can make that time, I'm pretty sure everybody else can.
So he started with executive and he's helping the buying and cascading it.
If you have permission to do that. If you don't have permission, work at the highest level possible. Yep.
Thank you.
Very good, Edward. Thank you very much. Let's give him a hand. Thank you.